Welcome to the Coach's Corner. Hi, I'm Frank Barbahan, and I'll be your discipleship coach for this week with your permission. This is number 12 in our series on how to deal with intense suffering. The point of editing the damaging movies playing in our minds, the point of changing our relationships to hurtful people buried in our memories through the King David search is twofold. One is to release and heal the pain, and the other, by releasing the pain, we can then change how we behave. Our goal is to behave like Christ. The goal is knocking off our immaturities, our disrespectful and unloving behaviors, our dysfunctions, so we may walk in the Spirit, putting on display the fruits of the Spirit. That's the end game. Let me tell you about a dear woman who had been raped, and I'll spare you the details. After that unspeakable act, she feared her husband's touch. He'd go to hold her hand and she'd flinch. Brief moments of cuddling no longer comforted her but stirred terrifying flashbacks. The thought of making love repulsed her. Like so many traumatized soldiers, and frankly like so many adult children of highly dysfunctional families, she ended up hiding behind a wall of silence. She really never wanted to talk about the rape. Her husband was gently loving and painstakingly patient, though he was in a great deal of his own pain from the emotional and physical isolation. A dear friend of hers, however, eventually convinced her to see me. We began to edit her movie. Lying in my recliner with her eyes closed, we went back to the scene of the crime. She vividly saw and physically, viscerally felt the rapist grab her, throw her to the ground, as if it were actually happening all over again. This time, however, as she screamed out, knowing it was now safe while screaming, she allowed herself to sob, and she allowed herself to keep sobbing. Another time, lying back in my recliner, this one, in fact, with her eyes closed, once again, she felt the rapist wrap his strapping arms around her neck and waist. This time, however, she chose to fight back, but this time she'd win. In her imagination, she reached back and clawed at his eye. He loosened his grip, so then she yanked his arm from her waist, and slipping out of his hold, she ran as hard and as fast as she could. In another consultation, she used me as a surrogate. Now she was face to face with her perpetrator through me in fantasy. So in her imagination, she confronted him. I sat silent, and in confronting her perpetrator, she allowed tears to stream down her cheeks, but no longer sobbing with a heaving chest. And she said everything that she needed to say to that perpetrator. Over the months, tasting her growing freedom, she decided to take the risk now to hold her husband's hand. In time, she walked her husband through the horrifying details of what had actually happened to her. And in time, she buried her head in his chest and let him hold her. And in time, she once again made passionate love with him. All of these eventually without the intrusion of the sadistic stranger. In my judgment, this woman exercised courage. She exercised courage to face her rapist, momentarily feeling he was back in control. She exercised courage by allowing her pain and terror to fully rise to consciousness and allowed herself to sob. She exercised courage by once again reaching out to her husband. With a daring vision rooted in Christ, she transformed her pain, hatred, and potential bitterness into even more character than she had before she was raped. Instead of justifiable vengeance, she put on forgiveness. Instead of bitter anger, she put on gentleness and warmth. Instead of hatred, she put on love. With both vision and spine, she chose to keep forging her new identity in Christ by transforming evil into further character and wisdom. In doing so, this dear woman not only walked in the Spirit, she defined it. Well, any thoughts or questions, feel free to blog me or email me at frank@peakperformancediscipleship.com, frank@peakperformancediscipleship.com, and we'll see you next time.